If you're thinking about starting van life, or you've been doing van life for a while, or you're just RVing or camping, there's always a problem with storage. Be it water, be it electricity, how much do you consume? It's just not unlimited unless we're hooked up somewhere and we have unlimited energy and unlimited water. I personally like to do dry camping and be self-contained. If you also tend towards more the dry camping side of things and you don't rely on hookups at campgrounds, this video is for you. I'm gonna pull up my trusty book here so I don't miss any of the points that I want to make. I have to find the points that I want to make. Let's start with the most important thing. Water is heavy and it's usually the hardest thing to carry a lot of. Depends where the tank is. If it's full on one side, then it's gonna be heavier on that side. Most of the time it's a good idea to counterweight on this other side. If it's in the middle, it's a little bit better. But then when it's empty on one side, then it's going to be lighter on that side, obviously, and it's going to be heavier on this side. So that begs the question, how big of a tank of water do you need when it starts to offset so much weight? It all depends on your usage. How many showers do you plan to take that trip, if any at all? Here are some of the ways that I am able to combat some of the water usage and how much I carry when I know I'm gonna go stay somewhere for 4 to 5 days, which is typically what I do, because at that point I start running out of water, I start running out of food, which will tackle in a second. I kind of get over the campsite, I just want to move on. My van has 5 gallons of fresh water under the sink. Behind the front seat I have another 2 1-gallon jugs, and I have a third 7-gallon water jug, which is only used for showers. So I know it's gonna be a nice day. I am going to put my 7-gallon water jug in the sun. I can take 2 good showers with it outside the van. If it's gonna be cold, I'm probably not gonna fill that up because I don't wanna store extra water for weight, and I also don't wanna store water somewhere outside the van where it's gonna freeze and I'm not gonna be able to use anyway. Depending on the weather and where I'm going, that 7-gallon water jug stays empty until I need to use it, or I know I'm going to use it on my next trip. How do I find water? I live in the United States. My water jug underneath the sink is removable, and because it's 5 gallons, take it to one of those water dispensers which is made for your household to fill up your 5 water gallon jug, and that's where I fill it. I usually am good with the 5 gallons underneath the sink and the 2 gallons behind the front seat for me to cook, to make coffee, to make tea, wash dishes, wash me. I'm good for 2 weeks. The reason I'm good for 2 weeks is because I have a foot water pump. I don't have an electric water pump, so I can control the water very well. If I really want to conserve water, I also have this spray bottle where I can wash dishes more efficiently. This is a huge one and this is an expensive one. It's electricity. Many people have different uses. I recently actually updated my electrical system and I made a whole video about that, so I'll link that up if you guys want to check out only the electricity stuff. In a nutshell, I knew how much space I had underneath the bed where I keep my batteries, and I calculated it in such a way where my van still has extra left payload so it doesn't overstress the suspension. That's another thing that adds up really quickly, especially when you're adding batteries and water. In short, the 12-volt things that I run are a fridge, my laptop, filming equipment, a few lights, and my diesel heater. That is 12 volt and it does need electricity to work. It doesn't just work on diesel, which is also something that I'm gonna touch on later on in the video. I also have an inverter which is 2000 watts, and that usually runs only when I run 110 volts or 120 volt appliances, which include a microwave, an induction cooktop, tea kettle where I can heat up water for my tea, for my coffee. Underneath the bed I have the battery storage, which is 300 amps of lithium power. On top of the roof I have 300 watts of solar panels. They're always on, they don't come off, so when I'm out and about, if I'm parked somewhere in the sun, they're always bringing extra energy. If I only were to use those 300 watts of solar on the roof to want to charge my 300 amps of batteries, my batteries will never be full unless I'm sitting in the sun for 5 days and it's always sunny, and you know, you get it. That never really happens. Those perfect situations don't really exist even in California. So imagine if you're somewhere else in the world where the sun doesn't always come out. Because of that, my main charging of the batteries are my alternator. And I recently installed a high output alternator. I was gonna do it myself, but then I changed my mind and I went to a professional, to a mechanic, to install it correctly because it needed rewiring. Since this alternator is a 250 amp alternator compared to my 90 amp alternator that the van had, this alternator also idles at 190 amps, which is pretty high for the original wiring that the van had. I also do have another way of charging. I have these outside solar panels that I can hook up to the side of the van. So in scenarios where I'm camping somewhere for a longer period of time and I'm using a lot of power, because I would love to use my induction stuff rather than my propane, which I'm going to talk about next. I take out these solar panels as well, so I multiply the amperage that can go in the batteries through solar only. A few things that are nice about these panels are they fold really nicely. I put them underneath the bed, out of the way. I use them only when I feel like I need to use them. You know, I don't have to worry about getting less wattage or not being as efficient as the ones on the roof. Those don't move, so I'm not gonna move the van every half an hour to where the sun is moving. But these solar panels I can. This is kind of it for my electricity in this video. Like I said before, if you want to know more in depth about my electrical system, then I suggest you check out the video with the electrical system that I've just put out. You're probably gonna hear me say this a lot in this video, but there's limited space in here, so you can only carry that much food unless you're hunting or fishing somewhere, which a lot of people do, but I don't, because I don't eat meat and I'm not gonna start growing plants for my 5 days somewhere in the campground. The best way I combat this, I know the meals I'm gonna be making, just so I don't buy random stuff and not use it. Canned food is also a big thing of van life because it's easy to store, it lasts forever, it doesn't have to be refrigerated, and this van is full of that everywhere, underneath the bed, in some of the drawers, wherever I can fit those cans, I do. And it's usually beans, chili, tomato sauce. I also have some dry goods like quinoa, lentil, and walnuts and almonds and oatmeal. Just whatever I can get protein from as a vegetarian. However, I don't skip on the fresh food, as in like veggies, because I always throw those to the food. If you've been around the channel for a while, you know I love to cook, especially when I'm out and about and camping. And okay, you get the point. I run out of water a lot faster than I run out of food, so it's never gonna be a problem for me to ever go somewhere camping and think, oh my god, I don't have any more food. It's just never the case for me. When I go get water, there's also food available if I need to restock on anything else. Okay, gas. The other methods of cooking, I have two different gas ran stoves. One of them is a single burner and that works with the propane and butane. The other bigger stove I have is with two burners, and I think it's a Coleman, I forget the name of it. It only works on propane, which is usually those green cylinders that you get at Walmart for the most part. I only like to bring that out when I know I'm gonna make a bigger meal. Since I've actually upgraded my electrical system, I haven't had to use these other systems to cook. I love the induction cooktop. Everywhere I go, it's super easy to take it out, use energy that I'm already using, and I don't have to waste my propane and butane. Those are more of an emergency factor at this point. Moving on. Gas in the gas tank of the car. My van is ran by gasoline. It's not a diesel van, which would be nice, so I just have a gas engine. Lazy engine, thirsty engine, but it works well. I digress. If somebody doesn't know about camping, the first misconception is that, oh, you're spending a lot of money on gas because you're going further, or you're driving for a few hours. In retrospect though, I drive to a place, then I don't start my van for another 4 nights or 5 nights. Let's say if you're around town, driving every day, going to work or whatever errands you need to be doing, you're kind of using pretty much the same amount of gas. Of course, the further I go, the more gas the van is gonna take. I think my van has 35 gallons of gas, so it's a pretty big tank, but it's, again, like I said, very thirsty. When I usually drive on longer trips, because I plan everything, then I don't really hurry to get there, so I'll try to stay on the right side with all the bigger trucks so I can go slower and conserve on gas. I would love to get to my campsite as fast as possible, but at the same time, I'm not rushing. I don't have an appointment to get somewhere. Last but not least, I don't want to make this video much longer than it needs to be. Diesel heat heater needs diesel fuel, so I do have a separate tank. This diesel heater, if I run every night for 4 or 5 nights, the tank is fine. What I do with this is I fill it up right before I go to the camp spot. In my scenarios, I only run it right before bed, and right before I get out of bed. The mornings are the coldest. I just have a remote and I just stick my arm out of the bed and turn on the heater for 15-20 minutes, heats up the van. After I get ready, I don't run it anymore because chances are I'll be somewhere outside drinking my coffee. This is all I have for you guys today. Thank you for coming along on today's video. Check out this video up here if you like to see more van life related stuff, 2024 style. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.